Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the holidays and adventures that surround them. I would just like to say thank you to Mason Rose, the sales and communication agency that represents some of the finest hotels around the world, for partnering with Travel Secrets, the podcast. Today, my guest is the wonderful British actress, Anna Chancellor, famed for so many amazing things. You're being jilted at the altar in 4 weddings and a funeral. We were talking earlier about karaoke, which you were in with my son's godfather, Albert Finney. We've just bumped into James Norton and you were with him in Grantchester. The list goes on and on and on, and you're in a wonderful play at the moment in Richmond. I know, because I've already done lots of research and listened to lots of your tales, that you will have some amazing travel tales, but some poignant ones too. So welcome to Travel Secrets.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming. And before we actually get into the travel secrets, perhaps you can just tell us a bit about yourself and how travel has impacted the person you've become, how you grew up with travel. Let's just talk about you.
Well, I suppose when I was young, my father was a keen traveller. My parents were divorced when I was young, and he used to have to take 4 of us on holiday, and he would drive to what he would call the continent. I've never heard anyone else call it the continent.
And where was it?
Meant Europe.
Oh, to the continent.
And we would have these rather sort of hysterical journeys with him, where he would be hysterical and we would be kind of out of control children. And I remember once we were in Lake Como, you were talking about that. He was an antiquarian book dealer, and he would drive his books round the continent, sort of slightly schmoozing countesses and things on the way. And he would leave us in the car. I think he felt that children were going to be a hindrance. Anyway, he'd disappear for hours. I remember me and my brother not exactly setting fire to the car, but do you remember when cars had lighters?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I remember us punching holes in the seats with the lighters and in the ceiling, and he would be absolutely furious. Of course,
I'm surprised he left you in the car after.
He was a mixture of sort of fury and negligence. And then I remember, like, one of these contests was like, "Oh, you're John, you have children. Where have they been? They've been in the car for 4 hours. Bring them in." So we did a lot of traveling with him, and sometimes we would just take the train to find him, and that would also go really wrong. And I remember once 4 of us, and when you travel on the train in Europe, they're always like separating the train at Geneva, and one bit's
and
going
you
to
have
Zurich.
To make sure you're on the right.
I remember like running to try, and my poor elder sister, I think she's still traumatized by having to sort of carole us onto the right bit of the train. And I do remember once just having so much chewing gum, which I'd acquired more and more of throughout the journey, and spitting it out of the window and getting stuck. My sister having to cut my hair. Anyway, it was all quite sort of up and downy. But we travelled a lot as kids.
Lovely. So let's get into your travel secrets. What's the number 1 destination that you think everyone should go to once in their lifetime?
Well, I don't know necessarily that I have the same taste as other people.
I want to hear yours.
So I suppose the place I have loved really maybe the most, I sort of fall in love with places, and I did fall in love with Mexico. So should we put Mexico at the top?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I went there for Day of the Dead.
I've never been to Mexico.
Have you never?
No, I'm ashamed to say it's top of my list, because so many people on this podcast say Mexico City is just so vibrant and so fantastic.
Oh, they're unbelievable people, the Mexicans. You probably have the best experience as a traveller because nobody's that bothered with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and you actually went for the Day of the Dead, which is their huge festival, isn't it?
We went to Oaxaca, which I had heard was the sort of central place to be. And we took my daughter Poppy's ashes with us. And she was all very involved anyway, coincidentally, with grief and dying and celebration and ritual. So she was very interested in Mexico anyway. But she never went as a person, only as ashes.
That's lovely that you actually managed to do that when she was into those rituals.
Oh, yes. It was incredibly important. And weirdly, we met Ruby Wax on the aeroplane. And I managed to get her because we had Alan Rickman was her best friend. With me, he was a great director. And and I loved him in that capacity very much. But with Ruby, you know, she'd lost her best friend. And so I said, Ruby, get a picture of Alan printed up and we will make a sort of impromptu shrine.
How?
And they're very unofficious, the Mexican people.
So you could just...
You can just kind of do what you kind of know they're not going to tell. I remember saying to somebody, we're sort of full of emotion, saying to some poor Mexican, you're just the best people. You're so unofficious. And you're like, A, what does that mean? B, do I actually care?
Oh, how wonderful. So where did you do the shrine?
Procession. So people are dressed up to the nines. There are people in the streets putting flowers in your hair, makeup, all that is great. And then they take you, one of the processions, there's many things going on all around Oaxaca and all around Mexico, I'm sure. But one of them leads you to this incredible cemetery, which is very grand. And it's got long sort of hallways, like a sort of mausoleum full of candles. And it's like being in a sort of Fellini film or something. It's a band playing, trumpets. I mean, I basically love brass bands. It's everything I love. It's color, it's flowers, it's brass bands. And then it's very tender as people are administering to the graves of their loved ones, but they sit around drinking beer, smoking, laughing.
But that's how it should be, a celebration of life.
Yeah.
And death.
So we just found a space and I was there also with my niece and she had come with her friends. For some reason, it was just something, I went, I'm going. And they were like, yeah, we'll come. And so they're arty and, you know, good at doing things. And so they had bought material from the local shops, some crates, and we set up a sort of impromptu shrine. And then there were quite a few of us. And then people had, on our shrine, they had like dogs, their pets, a baby, a scan of a baby that had never been born, that had, you know, been stillborn, and read poetry and talked. And
how wonderful!
Yeah, it's great.
And Alan was a wonderful man too. So lovely that shrine.
Oh, Alan was very, very wonderful, deep, kind person, and he would have fully approved.
Absolutely, he would have fully approved, and I think your daughter would have fully approved as well.
Yeah, she was right behind us. And then we actually went to somewhere called Mazunte, which is on the beach, which is a sort of holiday destination. But there, somebody told me they've got a beautiful cemetery up there. And so we took Poppy up there in the middle of the night. See, I didn't leave her ashes in Oaxaca. Okay. It didn't feel right. You have to go what feels right. And I found this beautiful tomb of this young boy who had obviously died young. And it was a fantastic mural of him. And the tomb was just full of flowers and almost like a figurehead of like a woman on the front of a ship. I mean, they just throw everything in. And why I liked it was that they had a stack of plastic chairs around around his tomb, which meant that the family went there a lot.
Yes, and could sit
there and do. So we left her ashes with him.
Oh, that's very lovely.
There also is. I mean, I love markets. So the covered market in Oaxaca is unbelievable. It's hanging with these pianatas and just color. And if there's a fish shop, there's like a beautiful picture of a shark, which somebody is just naturally artistic people.
Yeah, very artistic.
It's just natural for them.
Yeah.
You know, everyone makes a big deal of being an artist here.
Yes, but there it's just in their bones.
It's just the done thing.
Very lovely.
Yes.
So that's your destination you think we should all go to. What's your most unexpected travel experience?
Well, maybe I sort of had a midlife crisis in my 50s and fell in love absolutely passionately with Marseille.
Oh, did you?
Yes, and actually nearly bought a hotel there. And I kind of bought this hotel, or sort of bought it and put like money down for it. And then suddenly thought, what am I doing? I'm an actress. I can't run a hotel. What's wrong with you, Anna?
You could pretend. You could act it.
I could certainly act it, but that you see, acting you do it only for a short amount of time. A hotel might take up sort of quite a lot of your life.
So did you go back afterwards, or
I didn't that was sort of done and dusted. Once I had to sort of like slightly lost a lot of money on the hotel, which I then couldn't. But I absolutely loved Marseille. I loved the sort of anarchy of Marseille. And it was one of those places, it is still, I imagine, where the rich people have left the center. And so the center is full of African Arabs, and which basically I like being amongst that kind of, that culture.
Yeah. And the locals.
I find that fun. I just find all those bags of spices and just the kind of crazy anarchy of that way of life, sort of breadfruit everywhere and just incredible markets. You see, I love markets, as I've said, and Marseille is full of them.
Well,
Fishermen.
the bag you came with today, the green bag, did you get that in the
Mexico?
market?
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
And actually, the south of France has the best markets, don't they? They really do.
Yeah.
And Marseille.
Well, Marseille is different than the rest of the south of France. The French are quite segregated racially, as we know. And so a lot of the south of France, actually, the sort of Arab contingent are often sort of pushed out. But in Marseille, it's a bit different. They're the dominant one. And it's built around this huge port. We were there for New Year once, and they had these incredible, my husband's Algerian, and they had these great Algerian bands playing around the port, singing this song that actually me and Poppy and everyone knew because we loved it. Rita played it, and it was all about going back home. It's a song about being an immigrant and going back home in Arabic. But weirdly, we knew it. We were like, yes.
Were you singing?
Yes.
How fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing. And they do a very good bouillabaisse there.
Exactly.
Right on the port.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Really, really. I didn't actually know bouillabaisse was fish soup. So when I went, I ordered fish soup followed by bouillabaisse. It's basically the same thing.
You just have fish soup
with more stuff.
What did you think bouillabaisse was? You just think, I'm just
know.
going to try.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I just knew it was famous for that. I was very young. So I said, I'll have the fish soup to start with, then the bouillabaisse.
Yeah, then you were like,
fish souped out, but it was
you needn't have another one for
never.
decades.
No. But it was very, very good. I remember. So what is your most overrated travel experience?
Oh.
Or even underrated.
I was trying to think of that.
Could be underrated as well. Somewhere that you went.
Well, I suppose that one of the places I've been to that was so famous that actually wasn't overrated. Rita and I went, we're good traveling companions. We slightly irritate each other at home sometimes, maybe. Once we get traveling.
You're fine.
We're fine. Some couples are the opposite, aren't they?
Their home is fine, but when you get abroad.
Yeah, no, we
on
like
the
traveling.
continent.
When they're on the continent, there are a few arguments. No. And we went to, we traveled around Arizona for 5 weeks. And we went to the Grand Canyon. But I think what was so good about it was that we were there in November. So you're after Thanksgiving and before Christmas. So it was totally quiet. Yeah. So we went to Monument Valley and there was no one there.
Yeah, that was really amazing.
One. And it was snowing, and the snow turned to sort of crystal, and you could see the footprints of the mountain lions. Oh. Wow. And then everywhere, when you get to the Grand Canyon, they try and sort of somehow organize it. I behaved quite badly. This is quite typical of me on holiday, is that they said that there were these original 1930s cabins. So I booked a 1930s cabin. When I got in there, I was like, this is shit. This is definitely not 1930s.
This is 2000s.
This is like a 1980s makeover, and it's bad. So I went to the desk. I went, no, this is not 1930s. They went, it is. I went, I actually happen to know it's not. You need to relocate me.
And did they?
Yeah.
And was there a 1930s cabin?
No, but we were sent to a sort of a very modern sort of, state-of-the-art one.
So they weren't then trying to fob you off
then they realised they were talking to somebody who I suppose
cool.
thought they knew.
Well, you did know because you were right.
I was right, yeah. No, I'm quite capable of kicking up a fuss.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, I used to embarrass my daughter so badly. Yeah. But then you see in on the Grand Canyon, there are all these kind of cut out bits of rock, and there are these boring geological sort of explanations of the Grand Canyon, like, oh, this is 350 million years old, this rock strata. And do you remember how boring geography was?
Oh, I hated
and it reminded me, I thought, how can these geologists make the Grand Canyon, reduce it to such a boring and probably untrue fact? And then I read that the Hopi tribe that lived there think that it's the sort of vagina of the world, and that it is the Grand Canyon is what gave birth to the world. And I thought that's
much more interesting
and much more appropriate.
Yes, but also why don't they tell? Well, because a geologist is not going to tell you that story, is it?
No, they're not interested in anything interesting. They want to reduce nature to a sort of boring fact.
Hated geography,
which is crazy, right? Yeah. Because in fact, there's nothing more wonderful and more interesting than nature, of course.
Of course.
So that opened my eyes to the Grand Canyon. when I read that tiny bit of fact somewhere.
I would like to do whitewater rafting.
Would you?
Along the Grand Canyon, because there is that.
Would you actually do that?
I would love to do that, yes.
Oh, you're brave.
Well, I'm not really, but that is something that I've always wanted to do. I'd like to do that, and I'd like to jump out of a plane and parachute, but with somebody, because I would never be brave enough to do that leap. So those are two things on my bucket list. But as I'm approaching 60, I'm not quite sure I will actually get to do it.
No, that's when you get going, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. Yes. The next phase of your life.
No, that's when you have to do things like that, else you become like uptight.
Yes, no, actually, you're completely right.
No, that mustn't happen.
So you'll see me whitewater rafting down the Grand Canyon next year.
That's amazing.
Very good, very good. So you told me that you love markets, but what is your other top travel tip or your travel secret?
A tip. This year I went, I met Rita because we travel, we often go to Greece for the winter. And we had a plan. I can't quite remember what happened. He was driving because we like to take our dog everywhere with us. We've got a dog called Fig.
And what type of dog?
She's a Jack Russell. She's a sort of cross between a sort of deer and a Jack Russell. She's very elegant. And she's sort of too cool for school, and she doesn't really want to sit on your lap or anything, but that's made us completely obsessed with her.
Lovely.
And so we drive around Europe so we can keep Fig with us. And it's more difficult since Brexit, but, with all the injections and everything, but we've somehow managed to negotiate that. So we travel a lot on ferries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We actually do something that you're not meant to do, because you're meant to leave your dog on in a kennel on top of the boat, which of course you would never do. So we do something sly and cunning, which is that I get the key to the cabin and then I meet Rita secretly. It's like we're in a clandestine relationship.
But it's because of the dog.
I meet him secretly so we can slip the dog in. No one knows or cares.
No, of course not.
you can't have your dog in your cabin unless you do something crafty.
So do you always travel with your dog?
If we can, yeah. I mean, I would like to go to Mexico for a long time, but we can't because of Fig. No.
And actually, if you did take her, you'd have to put her in the hold.
And I don't.
No, can't do that.
But this time I was meeting Rita in Ancona. So he was driving and I flew to Italy. Partly because one of our favorite restaurants is in Ancona, and that's just a cafe attached to a petrol station.
And it's one of your favorite restaurants. I love that.
Love it. I don't know. They're very beautiful, the women who run the cafe. They're all sisters. And it just is that very delicious. I think that's when Italian food is really good, don't you?
Absolutely.
Just cafe food with the best pizzas, very delicious pasta. You've got like the workman.
Home cooked. Simple.
So we met there.
Delicious.
But what had happened on the way was that he had broken down. And so I was left not really knowing where to go. So I had 3 days waiting for him in Ancona. So I suppose my tip is just take it easy. Because I suppose I could have panicked and thought, I don't know where to go, what to do, and I'm waiting for him now, all our plans have gone wrong. But I think maybe since Poppy's died, I'm a bit more like, well, does anyone care? Who cares if your plans go wrong? And actually, I called up my friend her friend is an actor, Stephen Campbell Moore. I went to Stephen's house and I got the key. She told me where it was, his lovely wife. And I drove their car. Their car was under a sort of bit of tarpaulin. I ripped off the tarpaulin. I just drove around. I just did what was going to be fun for me on my own.
And then went to your nice restaurant.
Met Rita at my nice restaurant, exactly.
In the cafe, which takes us very nicely into the food and drink question, because it's so important as part of travel, food and drink. Oh, yes. So what do you like eating? Where do you eat? And what do you drink?
I don't actually drink alcohol.
Do you not?
No. But I drink a lot of tea. Actually, they often don't want to give you tea in abroad. That's one of the things I miss. It doesn't taste
so nice.
No, but in Greece, they have what they call mountain tea, which is just the herbs that people gather and everyone drinks that, and that is delicious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that is delicious. And you get that, the old-fashioned places will always give you mountain tea.
Oh, good. So I'm going to Skiathos this summer. I shall ask for mountain tea.
Yeah. Very good for you.
Because I usually take my PG tips.
Oh, well, you might have to bring them too, because it doesn't quite hit the same nerve.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you've got a PG tips addiction, nothing's going to touch that, is it?
No.
You need to have that too. I love PG tips too. But I like to drink hot drinks when I'm eating a meal. But I think my favorite food has probably been in Sicily. Yeah.
Lovely. Where did you have your best
Well, do you
meal?
know Catania? Have you ever been there?
I have been to Catania, actually. Yes, I have.
I mean,
yes, but I don't know it well, but I have been there. When I went to, which hotel did I go to? I think I flew into Catania. I think it might have been the Roccoforte Hotel.
Yes, and Catania's quite near
the airport.
that very famous place where they film White Lotus.
Taormina.
Yeah. Catania itself is absolutely the most wonderful city.
Is it?
Well, it's, as you know, right under the foot of Etna. So everyone has basically sort of signed off their life to a certain extent. You know, it is what it is. That mountain, that volcano is going to blow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course in Naples, I love Naples too. And Naples is obviously quite precarious. And there's one huge volcano under the water outside of Naples, which is apparently the biggest volcano.
Oh, really?
On the continent.
So not even Vesuvius, but
no, Vesuvius is nothing. Etna's nothing. There's a monster underneath. Oh, wow. Yeah. Really? But I filmed on an island called Stromboli.
Oh, yes.
I was there for a month. And I said to one of the other actors, I went, God, I actually thought that was the volcano, but now I realize it's a plane taking off and landing. They went, no, Anna, that is the volcano. Every 25 minutes, boom. And there was something very strange happened to me on that volcano. I became, and it hasn't happened to me again, an absolutely prolific poet.
Oh.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. I couldn't stop writing poetry, and it was all rhyming, and it went on for ages. And I have to say myself, it was rather brilliant.
You should publish a book, Poets
I said
Stromboli.
I kept that in. I say so myself. It was brilliant. I don't actually know that a publisher would think it was brilliant.
What were you filming there?
It was literally called Stromboli. It was a Dutch film for Netflix.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Have you done much acting abroad, or is most of it here?
Well, I filmed in Italy. I filmed in Stromboli and Puglia, and I've been in the theatre in Japan. I've been in New York a few times to do plays. I filmed in LA, Canada.
Which was your favourite?
I had actually a very sort of special time in Canada in this sort of, can I say shithole?
Yes, you can
in this
say.
shithole called Sault Ste. Marie, which is in the middle of absolutely nowhere. You fly over kind of pines and lakes that go on forever. It's the middle of it's a steel town, which is now stopped mining, and people are poor, and there's quite a big drug problem there, and kind of a godforsaken place in a way. But my brother-in-law is also an actor, and he had done a lot of work in Canada. And he said to me just this one thing. He said, I tell you, Anna, if you give to Sault Ste. Marie, it will give back to you. I don't even know why he said it, but I kept it in my head. And I really got into being there. And I went to the local sort of community centres for like a shindig, like a kind of country music shindig.
Fun.
And I went again, I tried to find all the secondhand shops and markets that were going on there, car boot sales and things. And I took a train journey. This train was later, it was later declassified. It only had 2 carriages. And I went for 16 hours there and back on this train to learn my lines. It was a brilliant way to learn your lines. And the train driver, every time he said he got to this particular valley, he'd hold out a Frankfurter and a raven would come and get it from his hand.
How extraordinary.
So I actually, and then Rita came to see me in Sault Ste. Marie, and they were so sweet, the people, the production company. Sometimes you do like not very good job, that like not very, just they don't turn out to be that good films, but the experience. See, I'm all about the experience now. Of course, I want to do good work, but the experience. And they gave us a pickup truck. I said, "Oh, can we borrow a car?" What do you like? I went, "We like pickup trucks." They gave us this car called a Ram. And it was red, and it was absolutely had the engine of like of a sort of aeroplane. Brilliant. And it was in April, and the melt was happening, and water was just pouring everywhere. And then we went for a walk, and Rita saw a bear, which is at the time you shouldn't see them because they're coming out of hibernation. You shouldn't bother them. And he was like running after the bear to get a better look at it. I was like, "You're crazy! That bear is going to kill us," but it didn't. And then we swam in those big lakes. I thought it was called Lake Sensational, but it's apparently called Lake Superior.
Same thing.
And so we swam in Lake Sensational.
That's brilliant.
I loved Canada. I thought the people were wonderful. On the film set, very egalitarian people, you know?
What was the film you did there?
I can't remember what it's called. I know. Isn't that awful?
And you don't watch yourself?
Never.
We
Never.
watch you so much and you don't ever watch yourself
No,
back.
because I think I'm Ava Gardner, so I'm always disappointed. I was trying to work out I think it's literally sort of vanity and a sort of complete delusion.
I mean, there are lots of actors who don't watch themselves.
Yeah, I know, because it kind of puts you off, right?
Yeah. I remember when I met Maggie Smith with Albert Finney, actually, and she was talking about Downton Abbey, which she didn't obviously
she wouldn't watch that.
And she said she'd never watched
No,
it.
I can totally believe that.
Yeah, she was never going to watch it. It's extraordinary. Anyway, we've all watched you many, many times and loved every minute of it. So thank you for that. So that takes us nicely on to the most poignant travel memory you've ever had. And you've talked wonderfully about taking your daughter's ashes to Mexico. Yeah. So that may well be the most poignant.
Well, yes, but I also filmed in Croatia. We filmed, Patia it was called, in Croatia. And it was just, we were still in lockdown, I think. And I hadn't seen Poppy for 6 months or something. I've been in Brighton or been away. Anyway, it was probably the longest time I hadn't seen her. And I had this fantastic hotel. It was a modern hotel. It didn't look great from the outside, but it was fantastic from the inside. We had the good view, marring everyone else's view. So I called her. I said, you've got to come. So she came, and I think she stayed for 3 weeks. And I wasn't really in the show that much. And we hired a car, and we drove, and we just had the great time. And one of the guys working on the film, he was the first AD, which won't mean anything to anyone. He's, funny enough, the son of an actor called David Tomlinson. Anyway, Henry is the son. Fantastic. He's like a real bon vivant. I don't even know why he was our AD. But he was into sailing. And so every weekend he'd hire like this really proper sailing boat. And we, the actors and Poppy and all of us, would go on these trips. We were like real Eurotrash. It was so much fun. And we would go to these like caves that you could swim in. Croatia's very beautiful. Have you been there?
I have. And actually that's the best way to do it because that coastline is so wonderful. To actually
is it called the Dalmatian coast?
Dalmatian coast, yes.
God.
Really is lovely.
And I like the Croatian people so much, quite bad-tempered people, very, very well educated and sort of pissed off that their country has been like taken out of their hands. Somebody said to me, I feel like an extra in my own country. So I could see there were problems with Croatia because it's very, many, many tourists and the people who live there can't probably afford, as true of lots of places. But I really, really thought they were great. And once you got in, once you cracked a few jokes with them, I really, really enjoyed being there. And Poppy did too. And we just had a great time. We would always go looking for waterfalls are our thing. So we'd look to see where there's a waterfall, where there's rivers, where we can swim inland.
Lovely.
Yeah.
We've actually got some lovely hotels in Dubrovnik owned by Adriatic Luxury Hotels. They own the 5 best hotels there. So if you want to go back to Croatia, really nice it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. Don't go during high peak season because the cruise ships come. Everyone gets off.
Yes.
And then it's very busy. But if you just go outside of those peak times, it's beautiful. I think you'd enjoy
Something
that.
so funny happened to us in Croatia. It was the cast party and it was quite far from our hotel. And everyone got so drunk, especially the drivers, that they couldn't drive the actors or the director back to the hotel, right? And especially the guy, my driver, I loved, Thomas, was only young. And I said, as we were like waiting, how are we going to get back? Everyone's too drunk. So then I found Thomas. I went, Thomas, give me the keys to your van.
Because you can...
Because I don't drink.
No, exactly.
So I piled.
Brilliant.
Yes, so I drove the van, the people carrier back with sort of 18 actors and a director.
I was going to say, did you have to go backwards and forwards to pick everybody
I think I only
up?
did it once. I crammed us all in. That was just fun.
That's actually brilliant that you don't drink because you can always be the designated driver.
Always.
How marvellous.
Yeah.
How fantastic. So finally, I asked you to bring a photograph.
So the photograph is of us in Mexico with our makeshift... have you heard of guerrilla planting where people just shove in plants?
No, it sounds marvellous.
They just shove in plants in depressing places. But basically you're just planting when you haven't got permission. So I think we were sort of guerrilla shrining.
I love it.
And yes, so that's the picture, beautiful picture. There are a few of us just sitting around sort of, there's something about people just being together and focusing and concentrating on your grief, on other people's grief. And there's this beautiful green light in the background. I don't kind of know how it got there. But anyway, that's what it is.
So it wasn't there when you actually were watching. It just
was. Mexico's just full of these surprising things. And when you came out of that cemetery, there was like a fun fair, the craziest, maddest fun fair that was going on, and the wheel was going far too fast. It looked like people were going to be just like flying out of it. Because as I said, they were very unofficious. So there's a crazy feeling about it. But it might have been light from the fun fair that you see in this photograph.
Or not.
Yeah.
It might have been something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
How wonderful. So before I let you go, what are you doing next and where are you going next?
I'm going to go, when I finish this play in Richmond, Richmond not really being a holiday destination particularly for English people, but maybe for other people, yes.
Petersham Nurseries,
exactly.
Very nice.
Yeah. So when I finish this play, almost immediately I'm going to go to Australia to do a TV series about. Do you remember a film called My Brilliant Career?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, very good film.
Great film.
Yeah, with Judy Davis, who was the great Australian
film.
actress. And now they're doing a Netflix series of. I think it's a novel which I haven't read, but the film I definitely have seen quite a few times.
Yeah. A few years ago.
Probably in the 80s, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And do you remember she's got that sort of fuzzy hair and sort of blistered lips.
So what are you going to be?
I'm going to be the sort of dominating grandmother.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm quite often the bitch.
Well, I've seen a few things when you've been quite dominant.
Dominant, yes.
The
You
crown.
probably can't imagine that now, having met me.
No, not at all. So demure. No, but how lovely. And have you been to Australia before?
Yeah. When Poppy was young, my first job was a Ferrero Rocher advert, and I got paid £17,000. And I almost immediately, now I'm thinking, why don't you stay and try and improve your career? But almost immediately I booked a ticket to Australia because my best friend from drama school lived there. And Poppy and I went to Australia for about 3 months.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
So she must have been tiny.
She was 4. Yeah.
Lovely. And where's this filming in Australia?
In Adelaide.
Oh, right.
Do you know Australia?
No, I'm certainly not Adelaide. Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah. I think Adelaide I don't know, but I think it's got a lot of vineyards. So it's countryside and probably quite near very sort of quite wild landscape as well, which is, imagine what they want.
Yeah.
Because it's very potent, the Australian landscape, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
And I think not a bad idea for a backdrop for a TV series.
No, that sounds wonderful. And you're going for a month?
3.
3 months?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So you're leaving your doggy behind?
I know. I'm not thrilled about that.
And then when you come back, you'll need a holiday in Europe somewhere so you can drive with the dog.
Yes, exactly. But August won't be the best time, will it? I don't think.
No, September.
Yeah.
Wait till everyone's gone back to school.
Or actually, I think the real key time is November. Because then no one's around. The weather's a bit not...
Weather can be dodgy then. Yeah. But October...
We went to somewhere else actually in November, outside Naples in lockdown. There was no one there either. Somewhere called Paestum. Have you been there?
No.
Unbelievable. Like these Roman temples completely intact. I mean, southern Italy is very beautiful.
You can't go wrong. Thank you so much. It has been so lovely to meet you and hear your travel tales and your poignant travel secrets. It's been wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna.